Thank you for choosing to watch the Watchman News Headlines video. Our full episodes can now be seen over at Patreon with much more added content for just $2 a month. Link is in the description. If you cannot afford $2 a month, please consider using our Amazon affiliate link, purchasing from our Teespring store, or making a PayPal donation. All links are below. In order for us to grow, we have to make changes to enable it. Our time is valuable, and we have been one of the very few news sources actually dedicated to bringing you honest, hard-hitting, actionable news and information. Plus, for your $2 a month, you do not have to hear me blabber about these links. It's a win for us all.
Bullshit.
Thank you. Good evening, Watchmen and Watchwomen of YouTube. So, got some pretty big announcements to make, and really excited about it. I'm stoked. I'm blessed, for one. Absolutely blessed. Something had came up, and I was able to make a huge stride towards what our goals are here at the Watchman News. You may or may not know that our goals have shifted slightly. And instead of just doing news, we want to start bringing a lot more like how-to type of stuff. I wouldn't mind doing more review type of stuff. And, I really want to hammer down, though, on that how-to kind of stuff, because there's a lot of information I got up in my noggin. I really want to share it with you guys. But the best way to share that is by showing projects. And we made a huge step towards being able to do that today, thanks to one of my wonderful customers that is expanding their business, and as a result of them expanding their business, allowed me to be able to expand ours. So today I was able to get the camera, not just the camera that I was needing in order to start doing really good quality, high definition how-tos, but I was actually able to get the latest version of the camera. So today I was able to get the DJI Pocket 2, not just the one. I was wanting to get the one because that would have been pretty well good enough. But I was able to actually purchase the DJI Pocket 2 today so that I can start doing this. One of the first projects that I'm going to get on is rebuilding a Coleman dual burner stove. It's an old, I think it's 413G or something like that's the model number. The last time that I had used it, it kind of went up in a big flame ball, and it's got some leaks that I have to take care of. And so I'm actually going to revamp the whole thing. I'm going to strip the thing down to bare nothing. I'm going to repaint everything, including the housing and all of that. Of course, I got to sand it down and do all kinds of good stuff. And I'm going to entirely rebuild the unit itself. But when I put it all back together, I'm going to paint it in some tactical colors. I'm going to make it a prepper stove. And it's going to be a fun project, and I want to bring you guys along to see how I do it. And so I needed a good quality camera to be able to do a project like that. So bingo, we're there. We got it. So there's going to be some exciting stuff. Now, mind you, we do have a Patreon channel that I'm trying to feed, and the reason why is because that Patreon channel is going to help us with the funds to be able to do these projects. So when I start making these videos, they're likely going to release on Patreon first, and I honestly can't tell you how long it's going to take before I hit that public button for YouTube, because, again, there's a reason why there's benefits for being over there. For $2 a month, you're going to see those benefits pop up really, really quick. In fact, the people there already are. So anyway, this is exciting news, and I'm glad to say that we're well on the way now to a bunch of really new, cool projects that I plan to put out there on the interwebs. So with that aside, let's do some headlines, and I can get out of here for the evening. So we talked tonight about the threat, or the supposed threat, tomorrow at the Capitol building. We talked a lot about it. We talked about whether or not there really is a threat, and it's yeah. Anyway, that's over on our Patreon if you're interested. It's like only the 3rd. It's the beginning of the month. It's $2 a month, man. That's it. $2. So if you're interested in that or the myriad of other content that we've already got over there, there you go. Links down in the description. So, all right, headlines. Didn't have anything from last night, so everything's starting from what I put out this morning. It's a bug, not a feature yet. Instagram accidentally kills likes, sending influencers into a meltdown. Russia's Gazprom aims to double liquefied natural gas exports by 2025. Suspected pipe bomb attack targets Dutch COVID-19 test site, says police. 7 students fall to their deaths after balcony railing snaps at Bolivian college. Russia's third vaccine, Covivac developer tells RT new jab uses classic dead virus technology. Iran to join LNG race in Asia with huge North Pars development. South Korea launches investigation into deaths of 2 people days after receiving the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. Coalition air base in Iraq struck by at least 10 rockets, U.S. spokesman confirms just days before Pope's historic visit. With much of continent still affected by strict COVID-19 lockdowns, Moscow hotels surge ahead to top European occupancy charts. Washington slaps tariffs on aluminum imports from 18 countries. I was just talking to Patreon about the United States still doing the tariffs even though Biden's at the helm. So, and it's still going to happen with China and all of that. In fact, I think that they were included in this. Peace in Europe not possible without Russia. German Chancellor Angela Merkel's coalition partner warns after EU deploys sanctions. Beijing deeply concerned by increasing acts of discrimination against ethnic Chinese and other Asians in Australia. France admits torture and murder of Algerian freedom fighter in the 1950s, but no apology for Algeria for colonial past. 6.2 magnitude earthquake strikes Greece, no damage reported so far. How to hold big tech accountable for violating facial recognition privacy law. Boom bust finds out. Very interesting. There's actually a case right here in Illinois that's really kicking this off. Can we kick out immigrants like Denmark does? Critics snicker after AOC lauds McDonald's workers' wages in European nation. As Biden bans export of defense articles to Russia, bewildered Moscow reveals it hasn't received U.S. weapons since World War II. Can't make it up. You can't make it up. New Western sanctions against Russian officials over jailing of opposition figure Navalny outrageous and ineffective, says the Kremlin. France says Turkey has stopped insults but demands more actions to fix fragile diplomatic relations. 9 reported dead as police fire on anti-coup protesters in Myanmar. Orban's Fidesz party quits center-right bloc in European Parliament after it threatens to exclude Hungarian faction. Indigenous villagers in Russia's far north, vote to ban sale of alcohol completely as addiction becomes overwhelming societal issue. Russian investments in Iraqi energy projects exceed $10 billion. Piers Morgan says his house is like Fort Knox after death threat, and he's hunting trolls with Facebook's help regular people. Or to help regular people. Now, remember, this is the big anti-gun guy, right? The big anti-gun guy. And he's the one saying that his house is like Fort Knox. See, he's allowed to be like Fort Knox, but nobody else. EU and Russia are natural allies, but superstructures in Brussels stand in the way, Moscow's representative says to RT. Navalny-linked Doctors Alliance branded foreign agent by Russian Ministry of Justice for overseas funding and political activism. Lawmakers raised concerns over reports of National Guard troops being served raw, moldy food at Capitol, and it had metal shavings, from what the claims say. COVID jabs meant for health workers ended up in the arms of Palestinian VIPs and footballers, officials admit. UK government budget extends furlough scheme, unveils corporation tax hike to plug economic black hole of wage-paying jobs lost to COVID. No card, no cash, no problem. Moscow Metro, the busiest subway system in Europe, to introduce face pay technology by the end of 2021. India wants to lure Tesla by offering cheaper production costs than China. Deloitte to pay Malaysia $80 million for its role in pilfering of state fund 1MDB, I guess. Far-right anti-migrant group Generation Identitaire outlawed in France. German government criticized by employers for human rights law that threatens to limit company supply lines. Chinese court says homosexuality can be deemed a mental disorder after former student brings case over textbook definition. Chechen cleric rebukes locals for providing occult services as Russian region continues crackdown on swindlers and charlatans. Investigation to be launched into Lebanese currency crash that saw pound dive against the U.S. dollar, says the president. A design firm had no idea CPAC stage resembled a Nazi symbol, but takes responsibility after liberal conspiracy spirals out of hand. I really don't think that was intended there. I think he just thought that looked cool. And I must admit, yeah, that looks like a pretty cool stage. I don't think it was intended to look like a swastika. ICC opens formal investigation into alleged war crimes in Palestinian territories despite Israel's objections. And I kind of am excited to see what happens here. I honestly am. I'm really excited to see what happens here because I don't think that Biden's going to step in the way of this. I don't. And this needs to happen. This needs to happen. Capitol Police intelligence suggests possible plot by militia group. An official says Democrats okay tighter income limits for COVID-19 relief. No fans from abroad. Tokyo game organizers could find it impossible to allow international supporters into the 2021 Olympics. German security service designates right-wing AfD party as suspected extremist group, says reports. There's a lot of this going around, all these groups being labeled extremist. U.S. civilian contractor dies from following missile attack on coalition airbase in Iraq, says the Pentagon. Canadian incel who mowed down dozens on a Toronto street in 2018 is found guilty of 10 first-degree murders. Google promises to stop spying on users, saying third-party for-profit tracking model to be phased out. What, do they got a better way now? Sao Paulo, and I don't know how that's pronounced, to enact Brazil's strictest COVID-19 measures as governor warns state on verge of collapse. Several people injured in suspected terrorist attack stabbing in Sweden, says police. U.S. police tighten security at Capitol on intel of militia plot to breach complex on Thursday. South Korea's first transgender soldier, forcibly discharged from the military, is found dead at home. Masks and social distancing every winter, ? CNN blasted over experts' advice. Viewers say they'd rather take their chances. UK draws EU's ire by extending waivers on Brexit food checks at Northern Irish border without Brussels' green light. Promoting democracy abroad by example, at home, Biden administration outlines top foreign policy priorities. SpaceX Starship high-altitude test flight aborted at last moment on launch pad. Yeah, they didn't abort it all day long, and it kind of, not a good, we'll get to that. Israel accuses Iran of environmental terrorism over oil spill off its coast, warns culprits must pay the price. New York Governor Cuomo refuses to resign despite harassment scandals and claims he never touched anyone inappropriately, except for that one time at band camp. I would take a jab at any time. German regional leader urges Berlin to use Russia's Sputnik 5 in vaccine campaign. Biden blasts Texas and Mississippi for lifting COVID-19 restrictions. No time for Neanderthal thinking. That's what he said. SpaceX Starship prototype explodes after mostly successful test, flight, and touchdown. That's kind of like a mostly peaceful protest, right? No, it did take off. It did land, and then it went boom. So I guess that's mostly successful. Hey, I was told by a teacher that many, many, many years ago in the medical profession that there were instances in which the doctors, which many times included the barber, I'm not kidding, they would get done with a procedure and, let's say it was an appendectomy, right? I'm just throwing out an example. I don't know if they did those then or not. I'm just work with me here. And they would get the appendix out and sew the patient back up, but the patient would die. And the doctors would actually claim that operation is a success, but that the patient died. And that's how it would actually be worded, right? The operation was a success, but the patient died. I had a teacher tell me about that. What was that, 4th grade? A long time ago. That stuck in my head. Another excuse to stay. Report on failures of U.S. gender programs in Afghanistan says they should continue anyway. Step toward new normal. New York rolls out COVID passport at event venues to prove attendees' vaccination and testing status. Oops. House cancels March 4th session after Capitol Police cites possible plot by militia. Lockdowns or the planet gets it. Guardian accidentally suggests COVID-like shutdowns every 2 years to meet the Paris climate goals. Where's our restitution? Ferguson activists and Mike Brown Sr. demand BLM cough up $20 million, a fraction of its global donations. That ought to be interesting. That ought to be really interesting. And I don't see BLM doing any of it or having any part of it. So anyway, that is it. That is the headlines. I am out of here. I hope everybody has a good night. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. And shalom.